Fortnite Battle Royale is crashing, and it's not just by a little bit, as the player count is hitting the lowest points it has in years, and after 8 seasons, crossovers and new modes, the big question has to be asked is if Fortnite Battle Royale is finally dying, and if so, is there a way to revive it? Today I want to break down the 5 biggest reasons the players are leaving and how Epic can actually shift the player base up to an upward trajectory. And let's even just start with the data. Fortnite as a whole still has over 650 million registered players, and about 1 million of them are average daily across all modes. But Battle Royale? That's a completely different story, as in 2024 we're seeing 2 million daily concurrent players in Battle Royale, but by mid-2025, that number fell down by 1 million, which is an 80% decline over 12 months. And that's the lowest point in nearly 2 years. And it happened despite some of the biggest collaborations ever, like Star Wars. So while Fortnite is still the 4th most played game in the world, its core mode is bleeding players and the identity of the game is being stripped, laid bare by content collaborations. Fortnite is no longer mainstream. The biggest reason is fragmentation, as Fortnite isn't just one game anymore, it's a dozen. Back in Chapter 1, everyone hopped into the same Battle Royale queue and you shared matches, shared memes, and one pump meta, and the whole community was watching the same thing, especially with those funny moment compilations. But now, people splinter off: Reload, Blitz, Zero Build, UEFN, and everything that seems a lot more competitive or Robloxy like. Custom maps, creative modes, and competitive playlists. Every new mode siphons off the dice of new players, and that just sounds great on paper. Variety is good, and I'm not trying to dispute that, but it destroys the shared moment that made Fortnite feel massive. When half of your friends are playing Reload and the other are playing UEFN, no one's really hyped about the seasonal POIs anymore, and creators can't really rally on one audience without around a single update. The matchmaking gets decidedly weird too. Smaller, less meaningful lobbies and more bots, which makes Battle Royale feel hollow, and in short, there's less competition and more fragmentation, which turns one loud global community into lots of quiet microgroups, and that loses the momentum and the hype and the viral energy that Fortnite once held. And that's why Fortnite had to rely on these collaborations. The formula is also very old, as the second major reason Fortnite is struggling is due to the original formula that is simply outdated. As back in 2017, the idea of 100 players dropping onto an island, scavenging loot, and building on the fly, and fighting to be the last one standing was revolutionary right before PUBG. It was thrilling, chaotic, and fresh, and every match felt like a new story, and winning your first game was a monumental achievement. I remember the first time I won my first game, and I literally woke my parents up. It was the funniest thing ever. But fast forward to 2025 and the magic has faded. You remember that old feeling when you'd get a golden scar, or you'd get some crazy loot, or you'd just be able to win a game? That's not just childhood, but that's because Fortnite's identity was so rare and new. It felt like fresh juice. And players have thousands of matches under their belts now, and the wins no longer carry the same weight. That's not because of time, but that's because the identity has shifted to a point where Fortnite doesn't actually feel like it's fresh anymore. The introduction of skill-based matchmaking has made victory feel more calculated more than exhilarating, and the layers in to fill with bot lobbies and the unpredictability that made BR less exciting has eroded even further. What was once a tense, adrenaline and pumping experience now often feels repetitive and very predictable. The core design that made Fortnite special and the sense of stakes of uncertainty is dulled, and newer or alternative game modes offer a fasting, more streamlined Battle Royale experiences, which are ultimately drawing players away. And simply put, the thrill has aged, and without innovation to revitalize the formula, players are naturally drifting elsewhere. And another huge factor is the bot problem. It's more damaging than it might seem at first glance, but to make matchmaking time short and lobbies full, and also make the game a lot more fair as there have been more tryhards around the game. Epic has been filling matches with AI opponents, sometimes making up about 80% of the game's population, and even if it seems convenient, players get into games fast, but it completely undermines the PvP experience. Fortnite's appeal is competitive, skill-based combat. I mean, I remember when I was younger and being able to show off your wins was something crazy. It didn't even matter what age you were. It was just simply so cool because it was so difficult. But now, it's pretty easy because most of the players are bots. And when you run into somebody, they're just someone who decides to completely take the game super seriously. There's so much building mastery and outsmarting other human players, but when most of the lobbies is bots, every match feels hollow, slow, and very unrewarding. And players notice this immediately, as there's a lack of intensity and unpredictability unpredictability is gone, and the practicing skills feels pointless when the AI dominates. And it's not just about the casual players either. Even long-time creators, streamers, and competitive players complain about how the bot-heavy environment kills the engagement. I mean, it was pretty awesome to be able to see noobs back in the day. It would be really awesome to just see your favorite content creators just making videos on noobs, and you'd see all these compilations which would ultimately spiral the game into more success. And when the players feel like the game isn't even genuinely competitive or dynamic or even cute sometimes, they leave. And the cycle worsens with fewer humans means more bots, which means it drives more people away. The bot saturation is a joke, and one reason why Battle Royale feels dead even though millions of players are technically still active. Competition and accessibility is another major hurdle, as Fortnite is no longer the dominant kid on the block. Roblox in particular has exploded over the past few years, which offers easy access, lightweight downloads, and instantly playable maps on almost any device. And Roblox boasts over 40 million concurrent players on peak, whereas Fortnite's Battle Royale mode struggles around 1 million. And this isn't even just a numbers issue, but it's a user experience problem. Fortnite forces players to download the entire game regardless of whether they just want to jump into one mode or custom map, which is a massive barrier to entry, especially on mobile and console platforms. Now, obviously, I understand that Fortnite has always been a bigger game than Roblox, and it's like a pretty crazy comparison to think about it, but if we're looking at the new generation and the way that the core identity of children playing games is shifting, you can definitely see why the player base is decreasing, and the fact that a lot of people who used to play Fortnite back in the day are getting older and having more responsibilities in their life. But that doesn't take away from the core identity of what made Fortnite special. It's like going through your old childhood photos. You're not going to forget those memories, but it's never going to feel the same. New players, particularly younger ones, are far more likely to pick Roblox or other instant access platforms, where engagement is immediate and frictionless, and even veteran players sometimes drift away because more friends move to more easier to access games. And also, because of the competition, a lot more children are less likely to play Fortnite, which makes the game spiral out of its popularity. However, when there's a difference between popularity and identity. For example, remember Fortnite back in the day when it was on news and everywhere? That was mainly because it had an identity that was so strong and so bold. And even though it is still extremely popular today, it doesn't have that same kick like it once did. And the reason for this is because the core identity of Fortnite has kind of lost its cool. It's not as cool to play Fortnite anymore. In 2025, even if it seems pointless to mention, the ease of entry is critical for the survival of Fortnite, and the current setup makes it onboarding slow and inconvenient, which leaves the platform as a significant competitive disadvantage. And then one of the biggest reasons is crossover fatigue, as Epic Games has leaned heavily on crossovers and collaborations from Marvel superheroes to Star Wars icons, anime characters, and more. And at first these were exciting and generating massive hype, but by 2025, almost every season feels dominated by external IPs, and the core identity of Fortnite starts to blur. I mean, the story between Carbide and Omega was one of the coolest things that Fortnite did, and it actually having its own identity. Fortnite is a big dog in the game, but they don't try and take advantage of the fact that they are huge. They use other external IPs to make themselves bigger. Players really care less about the map, the loot pools, and the original seasonal themes because the emphasis is yet on another crossover event. And instead of building community excitement around creative updates or gameplay mechanics, the attention shifts to more marketing-driven events. And I'm not trying to say that some of these crossover events aren't fun. They are super fun sometimes. But it's not just about the fun, but it's all about the core identity of what makes Fortnite Fortnite. And that was why Chapter 5 felt particularly interesting, because the first season with Hope was really cool, as I thought this was when Fortnite was going to finally start regaining that identity. When players feel like the game is primarily a vehicle for IP promotions rather than a living, evolving BR ecosystem, the engagement massively drops, because once a game where players love to play becomes a platform they tolerate until the next hype drop, which contributes to the declining daily users of fractured interest. But it's important to remember that Epic's largest strategic shift. Fortnite isn't just trying to be a battle royale anymore, but it's aiming to be a multi-platform. UEFN, custom content, and creative modes are designed to make Fortnite a place where players can build, share, and experience endless user-generated content. The problem, though, is when implementation has lagged, delays, missing features, and the lack of thin client has slowed adoption. And without easy access to fresh players, Battle Royale feels like it's shrinking, not growing. And Epic's vision is smart, but the platform is more sustainable with a single mode. But the transition period is very messy. During this in-between phase, highs feel muted and the lows feel prolonged, and Fortnite's player base fragmentation is an outdated formula. Saturation, competition, and collab fatigue all compound this transitional challenge. The good news is though, is if Epic executes on accessibility and UEFN properly, the platform could actually not only recover but surpass previous peaks, but until then, BR players are left feeling like they're part of a game in flux. Still large, still active, but far from the cultural powerhouse it once was. I think one way they could fix this is by creating a huge event where we sort of see something similar from Season X where Fortnite died, and then we get a complete new revamp where it's completely original back from the start. I never said collabs are bad, and I think collabs could be an amazing part of the game, but they shouldn't take the main focal center point of the story. If Epic Games were to polish the user interface, make it so the game feels more transitional and speedy, and also allow for the game to have its own core identity again, I feel Fortnite could hit the mainframe page again. Another thing is if they released the Thin client as making Fortnite easy to access. As if you remember when they released Fortnite on mobile, people went crazy. This is when Fortnite really blew up and it showed. And the final thing is reigniting BR's excitement, as whether that's a limited time throwback, unique twists, or fresh incentives for wins. Not slapping in OG and just calling it a day, but actually making it feel immersive and making it part of the main game, not just a separate mode. But the truth ultimately is that Battle Royale may never go back to its Chapter 1 glory days, but Fortnite as a platform, that's definitely still alive. If Epic gets the transition right, Fortnite could outlast more than its competitors, but if not, BR could quietly fade while Roblox and others keep growing. Fortnite is definitely dying, and the player base is showing that. The numbers don't lie, and Fortnite itself isn't dead, it's evolving. The only question is whether Epic can keep its core players without chasing the future. I want to know your opinions in the comments. Is Fortnite's decline permanent, or it's just another low point before the comeback? I'm not saying I'm correct or incorrect, I just want to know your opinion down below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like and subscribe, but that's only if you like me as a person. Like, I'm not going to tell you to subscribe because of this video, I don't know. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video.